part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Chase Smith, founder and CEO of Press Play Podcast. You may have heard me on the Orange is Oranger Cleveland Browns podcast with Jeremy Powell, now wonderfully hosted by Holly Wetzel, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Sam Amico, or my own podcast, the Chase Smith Podcast. I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about a brand new subscription-based podcast we're offering this football season, the Press Play Sports Podcast. This premium podcast feed will send all of the sports podcasts offered on the Press Play Podcast Network to one central feed. Yes, you can still follow and subscribe to all of our individual shows for free on every podcast platform. But if you wanted to consolidate your podcast feed and listen to them all in one location, the Press Play Sports Podcast is for you. I'm talking the Oranges and Oranger Browns podcast with Holly Wetzel and Jeremy Powell, Reghi and Roda, Sable Brothers on the Baseline, Cavs on the Break, the Dennis Maniloff Show, the Ball Card Show, the Premium Fantasy Podcast, a Swing in a Tribe MLB podcast, and the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast, all in one feed. All 9 of our sports shows curated into one single podcast feed. Out the door, you're looking at $5.36 a month after tax. That's $5.36, just about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. And this is only offered on Apple Podcasts. You can't get this anywhere else. It's an Apple Podcast exclusive. Just go to the search bar and search Press Play Sports. It'll come up and you can subscribe from there. We're excited to offer this consolidated, curated sports feed for you to enjoy. And as always, thank you so much for listening and your support.
And welcome to another edition of the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our producer extraordinaire, Dave Emmert, making sure you in the podcatosphere get another edition of this R&R podcast. Roda and Reghi with you, Reghi and Roda with you. And you know who else is with us, Michael Reghi? Northfieldpark. That's right. They're my home, your home, everybody's home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Post time. Post time is set for 6 p.m. Enjoy it. Open early, open every day for simulcast action, and go win some money on the ponies. Michael, the Brownies and the Buckeyes. I figured we'd start with those two because 3-1 for the Buckeyes and 2-1 for the Browns. Let's go Buckeyes first, if you don't mind. What did you make of their defensive effort against Akron in a 59-7 win, and just your overall assessment of the Buckeyes through 4 games, ranked number 10, the highest spot they're ranked, I think, is 10 so far in the polls.
Right. You wanted them to have that kind of performance. And, bottom line, you look at the final score, they did. And, I was looking specifically, I've called a couple of Akron games already this year, Kenny. So I felt going in that, Ohio State should be able to offensively, put some numbers up, which is exactly what they did. What I was looking for mostly and watching that game and then watching it again the other night is, defensively. So no, certainly they weren't going to be facing the type of offensive weaponry like they did when they played the Oregon Ducks. But you wanted to see improvement. You wanted to see, guys running hard to the ball, tackling well. I felt that, Ohio State, I don't think they're the best tackling team, Kenny. I think they got to get that cleaned up. And I know it sounds, it might sound a little bit, off course. Well, no, I mean, you got to, you got to be a good tackling team. And, I felt that was part of the problem for them. So I saw some things that you like. They seem to be, firing off the ball, running around, looking to make plays, looking to have 2 and 3 defenders hit ball carriers and receivers. So, again, you got to take care of where you are. And right away, you really can't worry about, I know some people want to say, well, it was Akron. Okay, fine. But you got to clean yourself up first, right?
Right.
You got to make the strides on the practice field to get to the point where you feel you can start to play a better game, a more complete game defensively. And I felt they did that overall the other night. Like I said, they got pressure on DJ Irons, the quarterback for Akron. They kind of stopped the Zips run game, and I thought, again, it just looked more functional as a defensive unit, Kenny, to me. So I think that's a good thing. I'm telling you that this is not going to be an easy one Saturday night against Rutgers. I'm telling you.
I agree.
I saw the Rutgers-Michigan game. Rutgers played very, very well, and Greg Schiano is a damn good football coach. And Schiano knows Ohio State, too. So I expect a very close game that might have to be decided in the fourth quarter, Ken.
It's a 15-point spread, and I don't think the Buckeyes will cover that. Yeah, it's far too many. If I were a betting man, I would take Rutgers with the points because I don't think Ohio State's that good. I have them losing at least one, if not two more games before the season is over with, three freshman quarterbacks and no defense. In my opinion whatsoever. Haskell Garrett, okay, you did it against Akron. Show me it, okay, this week. Show me it against Rutgers in the Big Ten and have, Gus Johnson, Haskell, the Rascal, going crazy and all that. Make plays in a Big Ten game when it matters, and you're the main guy because he's the anchor of that defense, right? He's the number one guy on that defense.
There's no question about that. And so I was trying to grease the skids for you by saying, don't worry about that. It was, the air quotes, only Akron. The Ohio State has to start getting better regardless of whom they're playing. But right away, you said, well, the Ag. So you do put a lot into that. I mean, Kenny, just think, though, if they not lose a football game, because well, let's say they had a poor defensive performance or just a so-so defensive performance against Akron.
Yeah,
man, you talk about the heat getting sizzling on Ryan Day, and then you got this stuff with whatever the hell that was with Kenny. I don't know. We're seeing more and more things on sidelines in college football in the NFL with players and their coaches during the course of game. I mean, I was thinking about man, no, that stuff couldn't happen back in the day. It just couldn't. Now it's all over. It just happened. It's like a daily occurrence, isn't it?
Yeah, and guess what? I'll go somewhere else because I can transfer.
Go somewhere else. That's exactly
for a
right.
year and play one more year and hope the kid that did that. And here's my thing on that. All right, he was a senior linebacker.
Yeah.
If he couldn't get on the field with that linebacking core, then the Buckeyes aren't missing anything as far as performance. I don't want to take anything away from the human being, the kid. You know what I mean? He's still a kid.
Yeah.
If he couldn't get on the field with that defense and those poor linebackers, then you know what? Let him go somewhere else, along with Gant, who left as well. Neither one of those guys. Yeah.
The week before, they're down two linebackers now. But it's going to give younger kids an opportunity to play, as you said. And Kenny, that's the thing now. I'm not just on Kayvon Pope and the Ohio State situation. I got a real pride. I love college football. Yeah. Love it. Love it probably at this point, in my career, better than anything. The number one for me. And it's just now with what the NCAA has done with the transfer portal, and you're going to see this more and more. Yeah. Kid gets upset. Kid loses his job. Kid's not getting the reps and the snaps he wants. I'm out of here. Well, whatever happened to, putting your damn face to the ground and do whatever you got to do to bust your butt to, make things, you can make things right for yourself. Yeah. And it's not always the coaches that are screwing everybody. Okay. It just isn't. So, I don't know. It's it's made it too easy. Kids just say, the hell with it. If I'm not going to I'll just go somewhere else and play.
Yeah. There's a part of me that likes the fact that they can transfer without having to sit out. And then when you see something like this, it bothers you. So I'm torn on it because I hate to see a kid go to a school being recruited by a coach and then that coach leaves. And what's that kid supposed to do? So there's the good and the bad of it. This is obviously the bad, and the NIL, name, image, likeness, that's starting to, blow up. And let's see if they start to regulate that within the NCAA You got Quinn Ewers, who's not even playing for the Buckeyes.
He's a senior in high school,
right.
for God's sakes.
And he's on the Buckeyes. He left school earlier, and he's making $1.4 million over the next 3 years to sign autograph. But you know what? If that were my kid, I'd tell him to do the same thing, Reg.
Yeah,
get the money while you can, right? I mean,
well, speaking of that, there's this outstanding young quarterback that Kenny's very familiar with. His name is Drew Allen.
Yeah,
he plays for Medina High School, and now again, I've been trying to do a little legwork on this, but Ohio State did not really recruit him.
Correct.
For whatever reason, they just didn't recruit him. Penn State did, and Penn State kid's 6'5", he's got a rocket arm, just outstanding. And I've seen him, and I'll tell you, I think that as his career goes on, I think he's got a shot to be an elite quarterback. Well, now I've been told, Kenny, that Ohio State might be starting to think, we may have made a mistake here. They're going to try to flip him.
Really?
Yeah. Now, right now, Drew Aller is saying, everybody can try all they want. I'm going to Penn State.
Okay.
So that's going to be an interesting one to watch and for us to watch.
I will reach out to Larry Legend here in Medina and pick his after they've got a big one this week against the team they never can beat, Mentor. It's on ESPN2, I think.
Yeah, how about that? They're getting an ESPN visit.
Last year, Medina beat, I think it was Eds and Ignatius in the playoffs, but lost to Mentor. Yep. So now they've got a chance, even though Mentor's quarterback, I think, is still hurt. It's a big game for Medina to get over the hump. They're the number 1 ranked team in D1 Region 1 as we have the computer rankings out. So we'll see what Drew does in that game, and then I'll reach out to Larry Legend and try and get some intel on that.
Because I was told, a couple guys are inside that said, Day and his assistant coaches now are trying to regroup and regather a little bit after not really having him, as a guy that they were looking at in their 22 recruiting class. Right. And now, maybe, again, maybe it happens a lot. It does. I'm not, it's you say, and we know though we know that, after the Jim Tressel to Urban Meyer, that turned Ohio State. Jim Tressel had, I'd say, 70%. The walls of this state, the borders were locked up. About 70% of the top players in Ohio were Buckeyes. Well, Urban Meyer, he's, I got to recruit nationally more. So, Kenny, that you're going to then, you're not going to be going after the same amount here in the state of Ohio that you were. So, it's kind of it's a tough deal. It really is. I feel because, that was Meyer's philosophy. We got to recruit nationally more. If we're going to try to, play with Alabama and Clemson and Georgia, we just can't have virtually 75% of the roster from Ohio. We got to recruit nationally. So I get that. I understand that. But, as you know, sometimes that ruffles some feathers within your own state. So. Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a tough one for college coaches, especially the ones at the football factories that you gotta, you really got to have your planning exactly where you want it as far as your recruiting, because you do have to recruit nationally. I mean, if you're Ohio State, you have to.
You do. Yeah. If you want to, it's not just winning the Big Ten anymore. It's winning a national championship, and you got to try and keep up with the SEC, which. And as we know, Alabama and the SEC, it's the best conference out there, and they're adding to it whenever that starts with a couple of more teams. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm with you. Buckeyes are going to have their hands full, I think, into the fourth quarter this week at Rutgers. So we'll see how that one plays out, as you and I are both in agreement on that.
They got to win this football game, though. Yeah, I don't care if it's 3-2. They got to win the football game, because you lose again, second loss of the year, then. I think that, college football playoff, that's out.
I think they'll be able to score at least one more point than Rutgers with their weapons on offense. Whoever's at quarterback, Stroud, Miller, McCord, Ewers, whoever, just get the ball to the playmakers. Run the ball with Travion Henderson this week and set everything up off of that. And I think they'll find a way to score it, whether that's 24-23, 14-13, or 42-41. I think they'll find a way to beat Rutgers.
I do too. I do too. I think Ohio State wins, but I brought that up only because I don't see it being, the normal 4 to 5 touchdown win. And Rutgers did not have a good first half, because even if they had an average first half last week, they probably would have beat Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Right.
Rutgers didn't do anything offensively in the first half. Michigan had a 20-3 lead. Michigan never put another point on the board, and Rutgers finally got their offense going. Noah Vedral, their quarterback, and Pacheco, the running back. So, and again, to me, it's a Schiano factor, Kenny. They're going to keep getting better because of Schiano. I like him as a head coach, and it's his second tour of duty at Rutgers, as you know.
Yep. All right, let's turn our attention now to the Browns through 3 games. But before we do that, we'll get a break in and then get your thoughts, Michael Reghi, on what you've seen through the first 3 games and looking ahead to the matchup against the Minnesota Vikings this weekend in Minnesota, a homecoming for Kevin Stefanski. We'll get into some Browns talk when we return on the R&R podcast. Hey, the Roadman, Kenny Roda here, and Northfield Park. My goodness, we love the gang at Northfield Park. They're your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. Post time is 6 p.m. It's open early every day for simulcast action as well. And how about this? Weekly Sunday handicapping contest featuring Belmont Park. Top prize is $500 each week. Registration there begins at 11 a.m. And you're not going to want to miss this. Visit Northfield Park on Saturday, October 16th for the $125,000 Courageous Lady Stakes and the Buckeye Stallion Series. This action-packed night of racing features a $2,000 handicapping contest on the Buckeye Stallion Series and the Courageous Lady races, a Plinko game for prizes, and a trackside barbecue grill and beverage station outside on the apron. Post time is 6 p.m. And remember, free admission and free parking every day at Northfield Park.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast, powered by Northfield Park. Weekly Sunday handicapping contest features Belmont Park. Top prize is $500 each week. Registration begins at 11 a.m. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. Go cash in on those. And Michael Reghi, do you think the Browns are cashing in on the talent they have on paper from what you've seen through the first 3 games heading into week 4 at Minnesota? Browns sitting tied for first place in the AFC North at 2-1 with the Bengals, who are playing as we tape this podcast against Jacksonville, and with the Baltimore Ravens.
I think it's a damn good roster, Kenny. We talk with the broad strokes here. I think we both said it as this year has begun. I think we're both going to be pretty damn disappointed if this doesn't turn into a real special, deep in the playoffs year, huh? Right. You're there last year, so. Anything less than that, you hope it doesn't go in that direction. But yeah, Kenny, to me, as I look at it, I think they're one of the best 4 to 5 rosters in the National Football League. Okay. Somewhere. And you and I know we've been doing this hell for a million years. It's subjective. Are there a couple of areas that you'd like to see them hopefully, but in the National Football League, again, you're probably not going to have a perfect roster, but this one's a damn good one. And to me, very, very capable of winning and winning big.
Offensively, I think they're as good as anybody out there, as balanced as anybody out there. I like Stefanski's play calling with the exception on fourth down. I love it, the aggressiveness going for it, but we talked about it on the postgame show. Some of the play selections on fourth and short, questionable, but I love his aggressiveness. So offensively, I think they're going to be fine. Defensively, we talked about the Buckeyes, getting well against Akron defensively. Chicago's offense last year. Matt Nagy, what the hell? I have no freaking clue, Michael, what that game plan, what you have a mobile quarterback who doesn't have a good offensive line, is going to be feeling the pressure. Let's make him a Statue of Liberty quarterback right in the pocket and let Myles Garrett get AFC Defensive Player of the Week honors by sacking him 4.5 times. So I don't know what Matt Nagy was thinking about, but did the Browns show you enough against a bad Bears offense where you're starting to feel better about that defense as it goes into Minnesota this week?
A little bit, because this week, I think, and again, not that, Kirk Cousins is an elite quarterback, but he's very efficient, Ken.
Right.
And I believe he's thrown 9 touchdown passes without a pick. I think I got that right.
Okay.
And we talked about Dalvin Cook, with this football team and what Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. The test this week I think we're going to find when you and I come on, following this game on Sunday afternoon. I think we're going to have some of these questions answered against a Minnesota offense that is certainly capable of beating you, especially at home.
I saw today on the injury report, we were wondering this after the game on Sunday. Dalvin Cook did not play last week. He was limited in practice the first 2 days this week, but that means he is practicing. So what I'm hearing is they expect Dalvin Cook to play on Sunday against the Browns. He's one of the best all-around running backs in the league. You're going to have 3 of the top running backs playing in this game with Chubb and Kareem Hunt for the Browns and Dalvin Cook there. Does it come down to which team can stop the run better in this game, Michael, or what? Well, how do you look at this matchup as to what might determine the final outcome?
I definitely think that'll be a factor, because both teams certainly have the capabilities of running the football very, very well. And I mean running the football maybe 160, 180 yards, couple of touchdowns from their run games. So yeah, that's I do think that which team runs or maybe it's more, Kenny, as we were just saying, which defense is going to get that other team's run game a little bit under control might be the deciding factor here, because, 2 very, very good run games that, that could control the football game, shorten it, and win games for their respective teams.
The 2 quarterbacks, the head coach of the Browns has had them both, right? Kevin Stefanski there is the OC with Kirk Cousins, got all the way to the NFC Championship game the one year. I think it was 2019.
That's right.
Now he's got Baker Mayfield in his second year with the Cleveland Browns. So from a coaching standpoint, Michael, and you've talked to so many coaches over the years that have been on one side and then were on the other. Is there any advantage for Kevin Stefanski having been there, right? Coached Kirk Cousins, knows everything about Kirk Cousins and that offense. Is that going to be a benefactor for the Browns this week in Minnesota?
A little bit. It can be, and I would hope that, Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods, Kevin Stefanski, I'm going to assume he knows everything that moves, when, how, and why for the Minnesota Vikings offense, right? So now that you say that's great, you can put together a great game plan, but if you don't go out and make plays and execute it, I guess it minimizes it a little bit. However, though, by the same token, does Mike Zimmer have a feeling that he said, I know how Stefanski's going to I know how he wants to game plan against us.
right?
Offensively. They worked together for how many years? So, yeah, I mean, but I do think because, have such a great deal of respect and admiration for him, I would hope that Kevin Stefanski, Kenny Ken, yes, it may not be anything that's, way over the top and over the moon, but I would hope that he's got some real strong ideas defensively that he and Joe Woods get together on to kind of get Kirk because we said Kirk Cousins is off to a real good start. And if Dalvin Cook plays well, we've already discussed that. We know what that means. We know what the capabilities are there, right? So, yeah, you would hope that Stefanski's got a little bit of an edge here against this team that he knows so well.
And I'm also hoping that he'll have an edge of what to expect from their defense, programming Baker Mayfield in this offense this week. And I think the two-headed monster of Kareem Hunt and Chubb are the keys to the victory. And I don't know if it's going to be a high-scoring game. I've been hearing nationals say, hey, this could be a shootout because the defense, we're not sure and all that. But I just think the Browns are going to find a way to win by 3. I've got the Browns pulling this one out, winning by 3 points on the road, getting Stefanski that big homecoming victory and everything, and getting out to that 3-1 start, because the schedule with this game, Michael, for the Browns, leading up to when they'll blow out Pittsburgh in whatever week that is, this is a tough portion of their schedule. So
it is.
They've got to get this one, because I think they're a better team than Minnesota. You've got to win the games you're supposed to win. And even though this is on the road and I know it's the NFL, I still think this is a game they're supposed to win.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that. And, although you can say, well, if they lose, they're 2-2 and it's early still. Yeah, but again, right. You just said it. It's a football game. You've got to believe that you're the better football team, man. And so, got to get the W, because next week out to the LA Chargers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's another road game.
That's a long road trip. They'll probably leave for that, next Thursday to head out west. And, and again, now you're facing, that young gunslinging quarterback in Justin Herbert. So, I don't want a loss at 2-2 and having to go out to L.A. Yeah, that would not be optimum. Let's just put it that way.
Hey, real quick, since we're taping this on a Thursday night, we are almost at halftime. The Jaguars 14, the Bengals nothing. So that one's in Cincinnati. Go figure, right? That's why you just never know.
No, you don't.
In the National Football League. And that's why I don't wager, right, Michael, because I would have taken Cincinnati 10 times out of 10 on this one. And
I would have been right with you.
There's still a whole half to play, but that's what it's looking like right now. All right, let's get a break. And when we come back on the R&R podcast, we're going to talk some Indians baseball. They're winding their season down, not only, as the second place team, I guess, trying to hang on to the second place spot in the AL Central, but they're winding it down as the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians' last World Series title will always be 1948. They will never win another World Series as the Indians. When we come back, we'll talk about the Guardians heading into next year here on the R&R podcast.
Hi, this is Maria Gincola with Mindful MMJ Ohio. Did you know that medical marijuana has been legal in Ohio since 2016? If you have one of 25 qualifying medical conditions, you can obtain your medical marijuana card today. The most common conditions are chronic pain, including migraines and back or joint pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, spinal cord disease or injury, and cancer. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more or to find out if you qualify, visit mindfulmmjohio.com and fill out the short pre-qualification form. The process of finding a physician, filling out paperwork, obtaining medical records, and scheduling an appointment seems like it would be a daunting process for most. But, lucky for you, Mindful MMJ Ohio will help you every step of the way to make the process quick and easy. In most cases, we can approve a qualified patient within 24 hours. And the visit is virtual, so you don't even have to leave home. So what are you waiting for? Visit mindfulmmjohio.com today. That's mindfulmmjohio.com. Let us help you be more mindful of your health and find a natural way to find relief from your symptoms.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
and me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And want to remind you about Northfieldpark, what's happening on Saturday, October 16th. It's the $125,000 Courageous Lady Stakes and the Buckeye Stallion Series. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later on in the podcast, but go check that out for sure. And Michael, I want you to make me feel better about the Cleveland Indians for next season, because right now I do not feel good about this season. It looks like the best they can do while we're taping this, they win their last 4 games, is go 500. More than likely they'll finish under 500. And I put together a list here for the Guardians of next year, because the Indians season ends or the Indians, what would you call it? Logo, nickname, all of the above ends in 4 games, right?
Yep.
So for the Guardians, I tried to write down players that I felt good about for next year. That I said, you know what? This is good. That they can build around these guys, and there's going to be a lot of them. They played a lot of guys. They figured a lot of things out this year. Well, I didn't come up with a lot of names, Michael Reghi, for the Guardians next year.
How many you have?
Well, position players, I only have 3.5. Okay.
Okay.
I've got Jose Ramirez at third base. Franmil Reyes is my DH.
Yep.
Ahmed Rosario somewhere in the lineup, shortstop or the outfield. And then my half guy, because he was only here a half season, Miles Straw, the guy they got from the Houston Astros. Okay. So 3.5 position players. Am I missing somebody in the everyday position players?
I understand why you wouldn't necessarily include him, but I guarantee you that the Indians Guardians will give Bobby Bradley every opportunity going to show that, he can maybe be, play 150 games and maybe hit 30 bombs, Kenny. Now, I'm going to tell you, there are going to be 180 punch outs that go along with that, because this dude punches out every day, at least once, sometimes twice. But they're going to give him that shot because, he can hit the long ball and might have that legitimate 25 to 30 home run power. We'll see. Yes, your other ones. Miles Straw is going to be the everyday center fielder. He's a nice player. He's I don't think he's going to make anybody forget Kenny Lofton out there in that middle pasture, but he's a nice player. So definitely him. Of course, Jose Ramirez. Of course, Franmil Reyes. There's going to be a new catcher.
There better be, because you can't have a catcher hitting $156, no matter how good of a defensive catcher he is.
I'm with you 1,000,000%. I say that all the time. Everybody, everybody loves him, and I get it. He's a hell of a good guy, and he's a hell of a good defensive catcher, and does a hell of a good job with a pitching staff, but he doesn't hit well enough. And you can't keep running them out there like that.
And we're talking about Roberto Perez.
Roberto Perez, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Sounds like Ken wouldn't either. So, Kenny, they got to get bats, man.
Yes.
They got to get 3 bats.
At least.
3 legitimate bats. And 2 of them got to be outfielders.
Yep.
Preferably. Because, the Harold Ramirez thing, no. You can't run him out there 140 times a year and think, oh, he'll be fine. No, that's not going to work. So 3 bats, Ken. So you better either find a way. You're going to have to make some deals because, I don't know, you think some are legitimate free agents, unless you drastically overpay them, going to want to come here to swing their bats here?
Oh, hell no. The only way they come here is if they get, if they've already achieved something elsewhere and they're going to make more money here, and the Dolans aren't going to pay them more money. So no, they'll get the cheaps. They'll shop at the dollar store, Dollar General, and get the Eddie Rosarios and the Harold Ramirez's and guys
Bauer.
like that.
They've tried, but see, Kenny, as
the
we're
way they do
seeing, right? I know. Again, it's and that's why it is excruciatingly painful sometimes,
right,
to be a Cleveland baseball fan, because again, how many names do we just name that they get those kind of guys? Well, those kind of guys aren't going to win anything for you.
Right.
They're not. Those guys you just mentioned, they're not everyday players. And I'll tell you right now, I bet you a lot of people, I've seen enough of Bradley Zimmer. He's not an everyday major league hitter. He's just not.
I agree.
He's almost 29 years old. How much longer are you think, well, it'll find a kick in for him? No, that's not the right way to. It's not going to kick in for him. Kenny, Oscar Mercado, to me, he's a fourth outfielder, Ken.
Yep.
He's not a guy you can run out and expect. Well, he's going to, I know he's not he's going to be our new Michael Brantley. He's going to hit 315 every year with 15 to 20 bombs and, probably be the best. No, he's not going to be that. There's nothing that has shown that he's going to be that. So they need hitters. And good luck, Chris Antonetti. Good luck. Because Kenny, how are you going to get him unless you trade pitching?
That's the only way. It's not going to happen through free agency. It's either going to be through the farm system. And how many guys have we seen this? We've seen the Yu Changs, the Owen Millers, right? A guy I was high on that they traded for. They gave him a shot and he didn't capitalize. Daniel Johnson, another outfielder that I thought, might be, a steal in the deal there when they traded Yan Gomes, and he hasn't panned out. So all these now, supposedly they've got other guys down on the farm. They got like 82 shortstops that they think they can make into other positions and play them there. We'll wait and see on that. Nolan Jones, I'm still waiting on him, another, top prospect of theirs. So offensively, I'm with you. They need to get at least, Michael, 3 bats to go with Ramirez, Reyes, and Rosario, the R&R boys, for the Indians next year. Excuse me, the Guardians next year.
No, that's you and I are in 100% lockstep on that. And I hope even the staunchest fans of the Cleveland baseball team get what we're saying here. Yes, the Indians have done a real nice job with especially their starting pitching.
Yep.
And, you hope, Shane Bieber's is he going to get one more start? I think he is.
He did tonight, Reg. I'll give you his numbers.
Tonight? Okay.
Yeah. 3 innings of work tonight. That's all they, we're going to let him throw 3 innings tonight, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 strikeout, no walks, 50 pitches, 32 strikes. So he's done. Right. He came back. He made 2 starts, went 3 innings, I think, in both starts,
right,
or close to it. Right.
Right.
And so I guess that's a confidence boost for him moving forward with that shoulder, right?
Well, and again, you hope that with Bieber and with Savali and with Plezak, right? And Tristan McKenzie.
And don't forget Cal Quantrill, too.
And Cal Quantrill. You're right.
He earned his spot on that roster next year and in that rotation by what he did in the second half of the season. I was very impressed with him. He goes 8-3 with a 2.89 ERA, and he's got 1 more start left. And he's been one of the best pitchers since July 1st in the American League. So, yeah, that's the thing that pisses me off, Michael, about this team. They can find pitching under a rock in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in Orlando, Florida, in Tucson, Arizona, high school, college. They can find it, develop it, and roll those guys out there. But they can't. They haven't drafted a player that plays the outfield or a position player since Frankie Lindor and Manny Ramirez that are worth a damn on this roster.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's a shame. And that's why I went through that. Again, And so now, again, if you're telling me that Daniel Johnson, if Daniel Johnson's not ready to, to hit in the major leagues and be a part of an everyday lineup, then again, you have got to go trade for bats.
Yep.
And you know what? One of those starting pitchers we just threw out there, Kenny, what?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is going to be gone.
Right.
Because that's whom the other franchises that you be looking to deal with to get one of their bats, that's what they're going to want. So okay, great. So you make a move, but you're going to take away a little bit from that starting rotation by doing that.
And I'm okay.
Have to.
Yeah, they need the bats, Michael.
Exactly.
They need the bats.
Exactly.
It has to be done. So
yes.
I will say this. The one thing, the other position, I guess, I'm sold on is Emmanuel Clase as the closer. I think, coming off the suspension for the PEDs in the shortened season of a year ago, he's come out and he wasn't affected by when they told everybody you're not allowed to use pine tar, the spider track, the spitball, the Vaseline, the Vagisil, whatever you're putting on the ball like the old man in Major League used to do, right?
Yeah.
Emmanuel Clase didn't seem to be affected by that. And I'm not saying he did this, but I'm just saying, look at the numbers since the umpire stepped in with James Karinchak, right? They're not the same since they stepped in and implemented that rule. So I don't know what the future is for him, probably as a setup guy. But the one guy I am feeling good about in that bullpen is Emmanuel Clase as the closer. So at least they've got that going for him, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, and again, so we know they can pitch. I think both of us, if I remember back to the podcast we did right before the season started, I had him go. I think we're both close. I had him going 82 and 80. So I'm going to come up a little bit short there. But of course, 82 and 80. And we said neither one of us. No, they're not going to be in the postseason. They're Chicago's going to win the AL Central, and that's exactly what happened. And I believe you had them right around 500 as well.
I did. I had them at 81 and 81. So they have to win. Yeah, they have to win the last four. They're up 3-1 right now in the sixth inning at Kansas City. And then they'll close it out with 3 games in Texas. So, and I don't want to hear about the injuries because a lot of teams had injuries this year.
Exactly.
Don't give me that. You played in the crappiest division in all of Major League Baseball, right?
Sure.
And yes. So most of your wins in this, whatever it ends up being, let's call it 80 and 82, let's say, right? Most of the wins, I would say 35% of their wins maybe are going to come within the division, Michael. So,
well, yes. And what Kenny's saying has a lot of merit to it. And here's why. Now, we've said a couple times that Kansas City's starting to get a little bit better.
Yep.
The Detroit Tigers are getting a little bit better. Minnesota was a train wreck this year.
Yeah.
But you're playing in the division really with all you got to worry about is one other squad. What the hell do you think would happen if the Indians were in the American League East?
Oh, gosh.
Having to play the Yankees, Boston, Tampa, and Toronto.
Right.
Come on now. So you do gain from that. Indians, that's a Cleveland baseball. That's a big plus. You don't play in a difficult division. So, I mean, again, I can't be, having parties for playing around 500, Ken.
Yeah, I don't want to hear this. We've won more games in the regular season over the last 6 years than any other team in the American. Well, what do you have to show for it? Right.
Yeah, what does that get you?
Yeah,
that's right.
Like I said, the last time the Indians won a World Series and will ever win a World Series was 1948 because of the name change. If they win a World Series, it will be as the Guardians starting next season in downtown Cleveland. So we'll see how this one finishes out. And I'm curious to hear from Antonetti, DeMarlo Hale. And then the other thing, too, Terry Francona.
There you go.
Is he healthy enough to come back next year, Reg?
I don't know. And they have, is that what would be best for him given his very precarious health situation?
Right.
As a man of, what is Tito, 64, 65 years old now?
Yep.
I mean, and it's 2 years in a row he hasn't been able to finish the season. Is that not correct?
Yeah. It was Sandy who finished it last year, right? Or did he? Yeah, I think he did finish the season last year. And then, it's an issue with Tito. We want him to get healthy. He had hip replacement.
Well, you got one of the best managers in the game. No question about that. Tito's as good as there is, day to day in the dugout. But again, there are very some serious health concerns there. And so hopefully he can. And so that's a plus and a positive for Cleveland baseball.
Sure. That's the biggest plus if he comes back, though. If he's
Terry
healthy.
will tell you himself. Well, manager maybe has enough to 10 games a year, but
Right.
if you don't have the players, I don't care, who you are. You got to have the players to win. Got to have players to win the major league level.
So get healthy in the offseason, Terry Francona, and then we'll see where things lie as the Guardians break training camp in Arizona next year. All right, Reg, our final break in on this edition of the R&R podcast. And when we come back, Cavaliers Media Day is in the books. They've started training camp, and they're going to have their wine and gold scrimmage already this Saturday at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So we'll talk some Cavaliers basketball when we come back.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast, brought to you by Northfieldpark. They're your home for live and simulcast racing, free admission and free parking each and every day at Northfieldpark. Go have some fun and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you. All right, Michael. I was part of Cavaliers Media Day this year via the Zoom interviews. We had the Indians on the radio. We were going to do our show live there, the Kenny and JT show on WHBC, but makeup game for the Indians, contractual obligations, so we couldn't do the show during the Indians game. So I did the Zoom thing, and it was really interesting. Because they brought all the big time players up there, or in the Cavaliers case, the biggest name players. I won't say big time players, but biggest name players. And the one that was really interesting when they brought him up there, and he was a little on edge, was that of Kevin Love. And the fact that he's still with this team, and he came out and said, no, we hadn't talked buyout or anything along those lines. What do you do with Kevin Love as you embark on this 2021-22 season where Sexton, Garland, Okoro, Mobley, Markkanen, all these young guys are your future and you need to play them?
It's not the best of situations, is it?
No, it's not.
I don't know. Well, Kenny, he can't. You can't expect him to play 75 games at 34 minutes a night. I just not for. He can't do that.
Right.
Now, just from a basketball sense, I'll ask you, how much slippage, how much deterioration do you think's in his overall game?
Well, if Pop don't want him, then I'm concerned. Okay. And they brought that up too about what happened with the USA team, right?
That's right.
He was out of shape. He's always injured. If you're asking me what I would do with Kevin Love if I were the Cavaliers, and I don't care if he gets pissed off, he's upset with it or whatever, I would tell him, Kevin, we're going to use you coming off the bench. You're going to play about 25 minutes a night max. And so we want you to bust your ass for those 25 minutes coming off the bench and monitor and mentor these kids and give them some leadership. And if you don't like it, then we can explore trades in that. But we don't think anybody's going to take you at $30 million a pop this year and next year. And if you want to talk buyout, then by all means, let's do that. But we're going to be very stingy there. So those are your options. What do you want to do? That's what I would say to them right from the get-go with camp opening up, because I don't think you start Kevin Love. I think you go with the young guys, Jared Allen at center, Evan Mobley at the 4, Isaac Okoro at the 3, Darius Garland and Colin Sexton in the backcourt, and Kevin Love coming off the bench.
That's basically all you can do with him. And if he doesn't want to adhere to that, then you got to work a buyout, Kenny. You have to, because you're 100% right. I mean, the Cavaliers aren't going to get dollar for dollar in any kind of deal for him. They're just not. That's not happening. So you might be just left with that, which, again, I think you're saying this. That's what I would do. I would tell him, Kevin, and again, you're also saying to him, I'm just not convinced that, you're going to want to mentor and tutor some of these young guys, and maybe some nights only get 15 minutes a night.
Right.
You can just say, yeah, well, okay, I will. That's cool. No, I'm not just going to buy that either. So to me, the best thing to do for the organization would be to, if you can't get anything back that you feel is even remotely positive for the Cavaliers, then I would buy them out.
Just eat it, man. Eat the contract. It's $60 million. If you can save maybe $5 to $10 million off of that, buy them out and just eat it. And that way you don't have to worry about that being a locker room distraction, an on-court distraction, a media distraction as you're trying to better your basketball team moving forward out of LeBron leaving 2.0.
That's right. And then again, let's say even, we'll just say, you know what, we're going to play him in it. How much better do you think you're going to be?
Right.
Well, playing him and taking time away from some of the young fellas. I don't think they'll be any better. So when it comes to about what, is he going to be the difference in them making the playoffs? Or so, I don't see that. So, yeah, I think there's really only one thing to do, Ken, and now it's going to be interesting to see if the Cavaliers will pull the trigger on that.
What do you know about Lauri Markkanen from Chicago? Had one really good year there, but fell off in Chicago, and nobody was knocking down his door to sign him as a free agent. And the Cavaliers said, well, we got to go trade for this guy. We think we got a deal paying him $67 million. He can shoot the ball from beyond the arc. He's a 7-foot. What are they going to play? 5 7-footers with Taco Fall at center and Jared Allen at the power forward, or what, man?
Yeah. They could bring that 4 of them out there and
it's
play.
All about the bigs, right, guy?
Yeah, you got them, Coach Luke.
We're going to have some tacos this year. It's all about tacos.
Yeah. Who I think played about 5 minutes a game in his stint with the Boston Celtics over a couple of years.
As physical as Chris Mims, right, guys?
That ain't too physical, Coach.
No, it's not, is it?
No. So yeah, Kenny, you want to see this team, improve, but we just said it. They got to go with these kids now. You have to. Yep. You got Andre Drummond the hell out of here, and rightfully so. I mean, so you can't be playing Kevin Love major minutes. It's not what's that going to do again? What is that going to do for the present and going forward for the next 3-4 years? It's not going to do anything for you.
What I try and tell him in that is, look, we're going to prolong your career. We're going to save you, your body, the wear and tear by limiting your minutes. And this season, you might actually be able to play 65 games for us if we do it that way, if you want to stay here. We think that's the best way to get the most out of you this year. Now, guys that have been starters, there's a lot of them. The ego won't let them come off the bench. They don't want to sit there and not hear their name called for the starting lineups.
Well, isn't that the truth? In that, listen. This is a tough one. This is a tough call, and we'll see. How Kobe Altman and JB Bickerstaff want to do this. But again, I know what I'd do. Yeah. I would do it right now, real soon, and go forward and not look back.
They mentioned Ricky Rubio. They're happy that they got Ricky Rubio this offseason. What do you make of the Rubio signing to kind of replace Matthew Dellavedova?
Well, I hope that he's more talented than Dellavedova. I would hope that he is, and I think he will. I think Ricky Rubio, I think, is a real nice addition for Garland and Sexton if you keep Sexton. But
okay.
I assume at this point they are, huh, Ken? Don't you think? They're going to at least start the year with them. So I think Rubio is going to help there. I really do. As he'll be the backup point guard to Darius Garland. So I do think that Rubio he understands. He's in his mid-30s now, early to mid-30s, and probably not going to get another big contract. So I hope he looks at this in the way that we're speaking of. He can do a lot of good for Garland and Sexton too, and I hope he's willing to do that. Sounds like he is.
As I look at this roster, Reg, I don't see playoffs with this roster.
I don't either. No,
I just I know Colin averaged 24 a game. You had Darius at 17 and like 5 assists or something, 6 assists last year, and they're hoping that they'll continue, but. The biggest
6'1" and 6'2", Kenny.
Right. Well, that's why they went and got all the bigs, Reg. So when they get by the small guards, hopefully the rim protectors are there to back them up and everything.
Nice.
So
nice.
But they got to be able to shoot the 3-ball, Reg. And I asked JB Bickerstaff that on media day, and he gave me, it's about in the paint. We got to play from the inside out.
No, he didn't say that.
He talked about the paint. Yeah.
That's not what the NBA is anymore.
I understand they were dead last in 3-point, I think, attempts, makes, and percentage last year. And when Markkanen's the sharpshooter they got in the offseason, that to me, that's why I look at them and I go, in the 3 years since LeBron left, their winning percentage is .278. Okay. And you know it, I know. They haven't made the playoffs without LeBron since going back to the 90s, right?
That's right.
This team, 270 last year, they were 22-50. I think the over-under is 27.5 in Vegas. 30 games, I don't think gets you in the playoffs this year. Does it get you in the 10th spot to maybe do the play-in game? Okay, maybe. But, they feel good about it. In fact, I remember last year at the end of the season, Reg, when we were talking with Kobe Altman, the exit interview, if you will, I brought up how Phoenix went from this, and this to the NBA Finals, and the Atlanta Hawks went from this, and this to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Cavaliers are on the same path. And he said, well, the Phoenix comparison isn't fair, but the Atlanta one, not a bad one. So along those lines, Cavaliers not only should make the playoffs, they should be in the conference finals this year.
Go to the conference finals.
He's trying to compare themselves to the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm just not a believer in Kobe Altman. I hope I'm wrong, and if I am, I'll be the first to admit it. But I still look at this team as 2 years away from being a legitimate playoff contender.
Yeah, well, it's hard for me to, with any kind of, any type of anything to back it up. It's hard for me to bring question to how you feel, because I feel the very same way. I just don't think that they've got the right pieces and parts where they need them. Again, Darius Garland and Colin Sexton are two nice young players, but don't try to tell me that, being small, both of them, and together in a backcourt isn't going to be on many nights an issue in this league.
Right.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Man, these guards, come on now. We just go down rosters if you want to of all these 6'6" and 6'7" two guards in this league now that shoot the hell out of it. Oh, by the way, can go to the hole too. And become matchup nightmares for smaller players, smaller defenders. So Again, there's things you want. I agree with you. You want to see them do well. And I also agree with you that we got to find out about if this thing is going to work for Colby Altman now in terms of how he has built this roster. We talk about the Browns and how they've roster built a lot. He's built this roster in a definitive way here. He's went out and got all this size. Does that necessarily make a team where the Cavaliers are take a strong jump in this NBA? I'm not convinced.
I'm not either, and we'll get into that more as the season progresses, Michael Reghi. All right, that's going to do it, Reg, for this edition of the Reghi and Roda podcast. We'll be back taping again on Sunday night. So look for something on Monday morning as we break down the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns in the next edition of the R&R podcast. Sound good, Reg?
Sounds good. A little Ohio State Rutgers, too. That's going to be fun Saturday in Piscataway, New Jersey. Going to be a tough one for the Buckeyes. We'll see how they respond.
We'll talk football next on the R&R podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our producer extraordinaire, Dave Emmert, for putting up with two old guys who like to pontificate. We appreciate your patience. And thanks to everybody there at the Press Play Podcast Network and our sponsor, Northfieldpark. We'll talk to you after the Browns and Minnesota on Sunday night, and you'll hear it Monday morning all over the podcatosphere, as we like to say.